Hey, 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 welcome everybody. Hello, hello. I'm Sandy Rakowitz of One Heart Healing Center, and today's live stream is about connection and strength, stories about connection and strength. Horses saved me, and I want to know your stories in connection with animals. That everybody who has an animal, I think, has many stories about pivotal moments of the animals in their lives and what it's meant for them. Hey, Natalie. What those animals have meant for them and how it's been pivotal, how it's been important for you, what that connection has provided for you. And I want to hear your stories. And I haven't done this before, but this is a fun thought. I want to hear your stories, and I think we all need to hear each other's stories. I'll share a little bit about mine, and I think I can bring you on camera if you're willing, or you can put something in the comments, which is also great. Both of those are really, really helpful. Having things in the comments helps other people know about the benefits that you're getting and that you're appreciating this, and that helps more people. So the more you engage, the more you can actually play a part in assisting this information and these experiences and these stories and this strengthening and this uplifting and this opening to get shared by others. And isn't that what we all want? Is to be able to have more of an influence and more of an impact. And so those are ways that you can do that in a very simple way. It's also great for me because I love interaction. I love connection. And the more I see interaction, because this is such an odd format, right? I'm just talking into a camera right here. The more I see that interaction, the more engaging it becomes, and it's not just about me because I'm here for you all, right? So one of the ways, I'm just wondering, how are people going to, right there, Amy says she wants to be on. Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit, and let's see if there's some more people also in addition to Amy who wants to come on, and that is awesome. So for me growing up, there's some really important pieces, about what happened. And I know that I'm not alone in experiencing these kinds of emotions and experiences. So I had a tremendous amount of anxiety. It grew into panic attacks when I was a teenager, around the age of 14. And debilitating panic attacks. There was a spiral over time into off and on depression, and that, underneath all of that for me, there were a lot of things going on at home. I mean, I grew up with my parents loving, provided for a lot of, my needs were met in so many ways. And there were these internal things going on. And I know that that happens with people, and that there's also a lot of circumstances for people that create those kinds of things. Mine was all really, so much was under the surface and hidden. And one of the big things for me that I didn't realize until much later, but that was at work all the time, is that I was a lesbian, that I was attracted to women, that my sexual orientation was not what was around me. I had not one presence of anyone else that I knew of or saw or heard or read about, saw on TV, nobody in my community, no discussion. It wasn't even any type of an option. And so, what I call it in part, it's like living in a world of heterosexuality, living in a world where my insides in this regard didn't match what was being called to and validated all the time. And, it's always about boys, if you're a girl, in my world it was, and looking to the future with that. And I didn't know how detrimental that was. So it created a very deep, hidden, internal bias and hidden and deep, profound anxiety. And it's not about, and I'm not saying these things to blame my parents or anything. This is, things that are coming to light more and more fortunately, in this day and age, that we can have these conversations much more openly. When I was growing up, it was horrible. And in generations before me, it was even worse. And so each generation, is opening more and more and bringing things more and more to light, and how important these conversations are. So although I didn't have animals in my household growing up, a lot of people are really amazed at that, because I'm an animal communicator now, and I do, so much of my work is focused through the gateway, through the work with animals. I do a lot of other things now. It's grown into helping women, predominantly women, cultivate self-worth and net worth now. That's what it's all grown into. But, I didn't have animals. I craved it, but, and I had friends, fortunately, who had dogs and cats. And then I got to the barn finally, and every barn pretty much has dogs and cats, fortunately, as well as, of course, the horses. And so that was, having that rapport with horses to me was life-saving, literally, truly. And they continue to save me. Like I was thinking about it in talking about this today, very specifically, and I was like, in a way, they still save me. It's not in the same way that it was when I was a kid, but I still rely on those connections. And in that regard, I think they save us all, because they bring us that sense of contact and connection. And what so many people, most of the people that I talk with, when they are sharing about animals, one of the first things that they'll say is that unconditional love, that they give me that unconditional love. One of the other top things that I hear women say is that they feel more comfortable connecting and communicating and being with animals than they do with people, and that those relationships are easier for them than people, animals over people. And I know that that's how I grew up. I was very uncomfortable with people. I still have social stuff. However, it keeps changing. And it's this, the more and more the pieces of our stories that connect in, that we can honor, that we can validate, that we can own, and rise through, not just above. I wrote above, but it's not like a spiritual bypass above. It is literally lifting up and through those experiences, learning from them, so that the wounds truly do become that fuel for what your work is, for who you are, for whether your work is, as a mom, whether it's as a family member, whether it's in your work world, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a light worker, whatever it is, that's your fuel. And so it's not about sitting in the wound. It's not about just staying in the past. It's about learning what that is, learning what those, the way that it's often said is about lessons. And I say that with deep truth and honoring of that, not in a slide by, oh yeah, another blankety blank, learning opportunity. And I have said that, but it is that depth of connection that you find through those places and how they inform you about the missing pieces. And I'm teaching a class right now that you can still get into called the Magical Medicine Transformation Series. And that's what we do. It's like dreaming those dreams, bringing them in, finding what those desires are, and understanding what this pathway is about, the medicine, the pieces that have been missing, bringing them in so that we can transform, so that not just transform even, but transcend the experience. And that's where that rising above comes through. So let me read. Functional depression resonates with my experience, and animals are so non-judgmental and present. I know, right? So they show us the possibilities of our capacity to connect. And they show us our capacity to relate in ways that we may not always get or understand with people, or that we didn't understand, right? When I think back about all the different things that horses that taught me, that I got from my experiences with horses, and still do, but really as a child, how to relate in a way where there's this much more easy back and forth, because I didn't get so many things when I was growing up. Again, I'm not faulting or blaming anyone. It's what I came in with that I needed to understand and really find inside of me were really like, how do we get this contact and connection kind of stuff, right? And so enter animals where it's very different, where we can bond in a way that we might feel scared or in some cases terrified of with people, where we withhold, right? And we can find those places with a different kind of safety, where we can understand what that safety is. We can experience a sense of belonging where in what may be new ways. We can be without words, like I was. I had lots of questions when I was really, really young. Always wanted to question things. I was always curious. I always wanted to understand things more. But then I started shutting down, and I withdrew and would barely talk with people, really. Didn't have many conversations. I stopped asking questions, all those things. And it affected my schoolwork. And it wasn't because I was stupid, although I felt stupid. I'm quite intelligent, but I didn't feel that in school. So all of these things hampered my sense of worth, my sense of value, right? And, it's so many gifts that the animals teach us. So what I would love to do, Amy, is come on and just briefly share something that when you were growing up or currently, one of the gifts of having a connection with animals brought to you. And yes, Natalie, it's like they bypass the barriers of insecurity. I love that. That's beautifully said. Now let's see if I can figure this out. Bear with me. Add, whoops. What it says, bring Natalie on, even though Amy asked to. Natalie, do you want to come on? I don't want to bring you on if you don't want to come on. But I would love to have you on. And I don't, you'd have to, I guess, put it in the comment if yes or no. Let me see, since I'm not hearing immediately from you, let me see if I can find how to, oh, you did say. Okay. All right. I'm going to go with that. Maybe I thought that was Amy. Let's see how this works. experiment technology. The guest declined the video invitation. I don't know if that's real or not. I know that when I did this with somebody else years ago, there were things happen. Okay, well, if somebody else wants to come on, I really do, not right now. Okay, that's fine. The interaction, I think, is so helpful. It's so helpful to hear other people's experiences, not just mine, and that it can be such an empowering experience. And I totally get not wanting to be on camera. I have had a lot of that in my time. Now I'm actually finding the fun in it. Amazing. It went to me. Should Amy try to comment? I don't know what that means. But Amy, if you do want to come in, you can. Okay, try it again if you want to come on. I don't know how that works on your end. I can't see that part. So everybody bear who's watching now or in the upcoming. Yeah, it's not coming up for me to bring you on. I don't know how to do it. Let me see, maybe one of these buttons on the bottom. Ah, let's try that and see if that works. Don't want to talk on camera. Okay. All right. So put some things in the comments about your stories, and I will continue on talking. I know that you know, over the years, I've been working with women with animals in one form or another for close to, I think it's 40 years. If I do that math, it's over 40 years. That's, ow, wow. Okay, so I started teaching people horseback riding when I was 18. So I'm 61, whatever, it's so for a long time. And when I was teaching riding, and I did that for a very long time, for a long time, I did traditional riding instruction. I started training horses when I was 14, and then started professionally doing some of that when I was in my like 18 and then early 20s, and then in my late 20s found centered riding and Tellington T-Touch, and that really transformed how I was teaching, and it was all about the connection, and which I loved. You know, it was also about the mechanics and the techniques of what you were doing, but there was so much emphasis on the responses of the horses from a very different perspective, and I just took to that like a duck to water. And that was in the late 1980s. And so from there, I just started expanding how I worked with predominantly women, but I've had some wonderful men that I've worked with, and really tuning in to that connection and to enhancing the bond and the relationship between us. And so centered riding is so beautiful. It was developed by a woman named Sally Swift. She started putting this out into the world when she was 64. So, you know, if you feel like you're behind in things, remember Sally Swift. And she grew that for the next 30 years. She started that, I think must have been in the 80s. Until she passed at, I think she was a few months shy of 100 or had just reached her 100th birthday. And I had the privilege and the honor of working directly with her when I lived in Vermont. She lived in the same town she taught at one of the barns where I kept Ebis, my horse, who just passed away a little over a year ago. And so she combined the Tai Chi, coming into your center, grounding, being connected with your body and in relationship with your horse from those principles, in addition to the principles of Alexander technique, combined with and integrated with the beauty of classical principles of horsemanship. And it creates this amazing centered way of being with your horse, especially while you're riding. And I was introduced to Tellington T-Touch at the same time, literally the same day as I was with centered riding. And I had EBIS and was having challenges with riding him. He was, must have been 7 or 8 at the time. He was 7 or 8 years old at the time, and maybe 6, no, 7. Anyway, around then. He was young. I was younger, much younger. And meeting Sally was just like a revelation. Like what she was bringing forward in the late 80s was totally revolutionary at that time. And Feldenkrais technique and Alexander technique are both different. They work together very well, but Feldenkrais is awareness through movement, and Alexander technique is working through the spine, and so they are different. You can Google them both. They are both wonderful. I've done a lot of both, although I decided not to become practitioners of either of those, although I thought seriously about both of them. They're both really beautiful bodies of work. And so some of the things that I just really wanted to bring forward is really emphasizing what our experiences are and how our sense of self is related to those experiences so often, and how we can make choices that on purpose to keep moving ourselves forward, to keep learning, to keep growing, to learn from what those challenges and difficulties were, what those crappy things, that crappy stuff was, and that we can benefit from those experiences now as adults and moving forward in our lives, and we can help others benefit also. So yeah, I just want to celebrate that connection, that bond, the human-animal bond in all of its many colors and shapes and ways and across species. I just saw this beautiful video this morning, just a little while ago on somebody's page, and it was a little puppy. I forget the breed. I wasn't even paying attention. Maybe a little baby dachshund. It was just so cute. You know, it was like teeny, and it was rolling around on the ground outside. And there was this beautiful little butterfly, and they were literally playing. You could probably Google it and find it. You know, like there was just this one point where the puppy just put its little paw and the butterfly landed right on the tip and then moved, and then it would go to another part of its paw, and then it would go on its nose, and it would go on its head, and it would go on its ears. It was like watching Tinkerbell in action, you know, in an actual butterfly. It was so much fun to watch. And that interspecies connection, you know, is so much more available to us to witness because of the internet, because we can see videos like that. So we can watch elephants, you know, orphan elephants in Africa. There's this wonderful place that the Sheldrake Foundation, that if you're not familiar with it, you know, you can read all about their story. They do extraordinary work, but you can watch things like that where you could never have done that unless you visited there before. You can watch, you know, the elephant sanctuaries in Thailand, you know, where I've been, and see that interaction. You know, you can go on webcams, live webcams, you know, like with the big cats in Tampa, and watch. You can see all these videos of people capturing on video you know, because we've got our phones now. It's so easy to take videos of these magical moments, like with that butterfly, you know, and the puppy, you know, and you see them like bears, you know, bears hopping on somebody's in somebody's pool, you know, with her cubs, and just all of these beautiful scenarios that help us, like without those, without the animals. Here's the thing. I remember when I was first learning animal communication, which I was introduced to because of all the issues with Ebis, my horse, back in the late 80s. I remember asking myself the question, what would life be like without birds, without insects, without dogs, cats, horses, you know, without all the wild animals, without all of those ecosystems? And I remember feeling like the vacancy of what life would be like if that were the case. And then I reimagined them all back in, because it was like very, very disturbing to think about not having that. And it helped me understand. It was one of those moments where it helped me understand the essentialness to our lives. It wasn't just me and my quirky Sandy loves horses thing, you know, that, because, you know, I was called horse crazy in fun and loving ways, but also in really, really derogatory ways also by a variety of people. And, you know, like she's just crazy off with, you know, crazy went along with a lot of the things that I liked, thought, and my behaviors, even though in looking back, you know, it was all just a young girl wanting connection. That's all it was, you know, and seeking that out in as many ways as I could in the places that where it was as more readily available, in the ways that spoke to my heart, that I needed more than just human contact, actually. You know, it wasn't either or, it was, but they did save me. And, you know, and that those challenges also drove me into my connections with the spiritual realms, because it, you know, with spirit animal guides, with guides, with nature as guides, you know, with connecting with trees, with connecting with the elements, and all of these different aspects of contact, you know, and that with all of the cultural, societal constraints that fortunately, although it dampened a lot of things, it never got tamed out of me. And I suspect that the same is true. I know for many of you who are watching that was the same. It may have been dampened or suppressed in certain ways, or shut off or held away, but that seed kernel of what it is did not get tamed. And that your connection, what I mean by that is your connection, your desire for that contact and connection has remained, right? So there's so much that could get said about all of this, and so many stories. But, you know, as I said at the beginning, that they saved me. And so what I've turned that into through my life over the last 40 years as an adult, 40 plus years as an adult, is helping women save themselves in their connections with their self-worth, and cultivating that, and their net worth. Not one, not the other, but really, because we need both. We need both. And, you know, so that women can also rise above that, move through that crappy stuff more and more. And the people, the amazing women that I work, that I have the privilege and the honor of working with in my various, one-to-one, with classes, with programs that I run, are incredible. And yeah, if you want to be one of those women, set up a strategy call with me. And you can do that by emailing me, Sandy, S-A-N-D-Y, at onehearthealingcenter.com. That's spelled out O-N-E, onehearthealingcenter.com. You can go to my website, www.onehearthealingcenter, same spelling, O-N-E, onehearthealingcenter.com. And you can go to my business page on Facebook, One Heart Healing Center. And if you do that, if you haven't already, another thing that helps other women be able to, get these stories, to be able to hear about this, to be able to understand what we're doing here, is to like the page, write a review, right, of why and in what ways this resonates with you, and give a 5-star review, right? Go to my YouTube channel, onehearthealingcenter.com, subscribe to that, like the videos, and comment, right? And say why this has been important for you. This is, I think that I have been in this sort of camp at a long time ago, where you don't always know how what you say can have an impact on another. So by you saying in one of these comments, yes, I, like you've been, like, yes, I resonate with this. Yes, this is meaningful for me, and this is why, why this is important for me. How that can touch someone else, because so many of us, with our connections with animals, with our connections with the divine, people, tell me all the time, oh, if I say I talk with animals, or I talk with spirit animal guides, or I talk with a guide, that people are going to think I'm crazy. I hear that all the time. It's such a common statement, but the truth is, so many more people, it's coming out more and more, right, into mainstream, right, that more and more people have these experiences. You're not alone. And if you want to develop and cultivate those skills, you come work with me, because I can show you exactly how to do that step by step. And that goes in with trusting yourself, and trusting and believing in what you're getting. And all of that ties into our sense of self-worth. All of it. It's all important. And so when you make those comments, thank you so much, Natalie, for adding something else. I'll read that in a minute. When you do put those comments up, they're for you. And know that that can have a really important ripple effect out, because somebody's going to read it and say, oh, right, just like you're doing here, right? Oh, right, that makes sense to me. I've experienced that. Oh, maybe I'm not so crazy. Maybe I'm not what other people have said. Maybe there's real value and benefit to what I've experienced. Maybe all of that's true for me too, right? And how important that is. And the other part of it is, when you do those things, when you like and subscribe, it bumps it in analytics, so that it catches into the rhythm of getting spread farther. And that's really important. And so those are ways that you make a difference. So why not do it? It takes like 30 seconds, right? It doesn't take long. It's something that you can do. So thank you for joining me. I love you. And I will see you. Oh, wait, I was going to read what Natalie said. Gifts from animals. They play to my strengths in a way that feels more effortless than human connection. I know, it's so interesting, isn't it? Intuitive sensing and understanding. Attentive observation. I know, right? They attentively observe us. Isn't that a beautiful thing? And we can learn that skill from them. I know that I have. Readiness to play. Right? Who doesn't need more readiness to play, more playful and fun?
So many things. I know. Thank you so much for writing those things. That's so beautiful. You have such a beautiful way with words. I always appreciate it. And you're always hone in on such important, wonderful points. And I appreciate that so much about you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. See you around Facebook, Instagram, emails, classes, one-to-ones. Sign up for a strategy session if you want to develop and cultivate any of this for yourself, any of that sense of self-worth, net worth, making these connections and getting in your groove, in your pathway. All right, bye.